My husband and I have 5 kids and our 2 youngest are autistic. And in this video, 12 signs of autism in the classroom, we'll be sharing examples from our home to yours. Meet Simon. He loves cars, has level 1 autism, and has no intellectual delay. Meet Ezra. He's 7 years old, loves watching sunsets, and he has level 3 autism, which is more on the severe side. Ezra's in 2nd grade and Simon's in preschool. And these levels represent the support that my children need. So if you want to know about what the levels mean and the actual diagnosis criteria, you can see that video here. For you to have autism, you have to have issues in 3 areas.
We'd like 3 possible recovery areas.
Communication, social, and repetitive or restrictive behaviors or interests. And I'll be sharing examples in all 3 of these. So let's get going. 12 signs of autism in the classroom. The first sign is really easy to notice. Unusual repetitive hand movement. Now, kids will move their hands in unusual ways. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're autistic, but with this, I want you to look at this word, repetitive.
This is starting to get a little bit repetitive.
How often are they doing it? When you see a child in your classroom doing an unusual hand movement, let's say they're shaking their hands like this. Maybe they're going like this. Maybe they're going like this. Those are just different movements that I've seen my kids do. Simon right here is shaking his hands. He's really excited. So in your classroom, if you have one child who, when they have some kind of either high anxiety or high excitement, just really big feelings, whether it's positive or negative, and in order to deal with those feelings, they do some kind of hand movement repetitively, that is a big sign of autism. And this sign goes in the repetitive and restricted behavior and interest category. Ezra also flaps his hands when he's excited, and when he's nervous, like right here next to the water, he'll rotate his hands continually until he feels better. It's actually a self-regulatory behavior to help himself when he's overwhelmed. It's called stimming. And if you want 12 examples of stimming, you can see that video here. Yeah, we make lots of videos. Sign 2 is a fixation on a specific interest. Now, the difference between a neurotypical interest and an autistic interest is the narrow scope and also how anxiety can possibly be built into the interest. One of Simon's interests is Lightning McQueen cars. The Cars Pixar video, he loves it. He has quite the collection of Pixar cars that he likes to put in a row. That's another sign we'll be talking about later. And one time for Thanksgiving, we were visiting family and Simon walks into his cousin's room and he sees the beloved Lightning McQueen car. He starts yelling and screaming that he wants it. We want to give it to him, but we also want him to ask for it in an appropriate way. And so my brother, Simon's uncle, walks him through trying to get him to ask nicely.
What does... And say please. Say more please. Do you want a car? We need a soft voice. And we can use a car. Or we need to use a nice soft voice. And we say please. We love please. Simon can use a car. We love cars. We love Lightning McQueens. Lightning McQueens are the best.
We saw this sign all the time when we lived in an RV. And yes, 3 years ago, we sold our house, moved into an RV. My husband and I quit our jobs, and we went full-time with our 5 kids and visited all the national parks in the U.S.
Crazy, 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 crazy.
We share about that journey and our unique normal with 5 kids and 2 on the spectrum. Please consider subscribing. Sign 3 is your child or your student always biting on things? This is just one sign that we saw with both of our kids, is that they put things in their mouth and bite on them. Sometimes it was to regulate themselves because they were having a hard time, they were overwhelmed or stressed or nervous about something. Maybe something new was happening. Ezra likes to bite on his shirts. So we'll give him chew toys to kind of bite on that are made for toddlers and made for kids with autism. And that does help a lot. But if you see a child in your classroom always biting on things, biting on his shirt, biting on clothes, biting on his hat, biting on pens and pencils.
I said, excuse me, sir. Can you tell me what they're biting on?
You might want to ask yourself why. Why are they biting on things? If it's to get attention, then most likely they're neurotypical. But if the motive is because they just want to bite down on something, they need that sensation for whatever reason, then they could be autistic. The 4th sign is lining things up.
Line up!
Line up! Now, many neurotypical kids will line things up, but ask yourself, how often do they line things up, and do they need it to be lined up. For example, is there anxiety there if the lined up gets messed up?
You went and you messed it up.
One time Ezra and I went to the library and he found all these magnetic letters right here on this magnet board. It was so fun. And he decided that he needed all these letters off. He didn't necessarily line them up, but he needed all of them off the board. And I was so grateful that there weren't other kids there playing with these, because I was able to just film him and let him be himself and have fun and take all these letters off the board. Now I'll tell you right now, if there was another kid there that taken a letter and put it back on the board, Ezra would have done everything in his power to make sure that that letter got off again. So if you have a child in your classroom that gets extreme anxiety because something isn't organized or isn't the way they want or isn't in a line, that can be a sign of autism too. And it can also be OCD as well. Put in the comments what we've missed. What are some other signs in the classroom that you've seen that are a definite sign of autism? Sign 5. Seemingly small thing can ruin everything. The best example that we have on video is when Simon was fishing with his dad. You can see how happy he is. He's so excited about the fish, and then he gets a speck of dirt on his hand. And because his hand is dirty, he says all done and he no longer wants to fish.
Hands were probably dirty.
Oh, look, he's a big one. He's a big one. Keep going. Oh, there's your fish.
His hand is dirty. That's what he cares about right now. In your classroom, is there a child that needs structure so much that if they don't have a certain schedule or structure, then they can't function? That could be a sign of autism. And we'll be talking more about this on our call. There's a link below in the description for you to join our ASD club, where we do weekly video chat calls and answer your questions and talk all things autism. The next sign is difficulty with change.
Difficulty breathing, difficulty swallowing.
That kind of goes with the structure and schedule as well. Maybe you were planning on taking the kids to the zoo and the zoo turned out to be closed, and so you end up going to the museum instead. If you have one child that always seems to have a hard time when the plans are changed last minute, that is a sign of autism. The next sign is spinning, jumping, running in a repetitive way and for long periods of time. Now, all kids will spin and jump and run every once in a while, but do you have one that is constantly spinning or running in repetitive movements for long periods of time? Ezra, you can see him carrying all of his cords that he loves, and he is spinning and loving it. He can spin like this for a long time, and it's kind of impressive. Sign 8 is that the child could actually have learning problems. Maybe they have a hard time sitting still at a desk like Ezra, or maybe they have a hard time focusing. Simon at first had a hard time with this, but he was actually able to learn quite quickly how to sit at a desk and how to focus and be attentive for a long period of time. You can see here that Simon is being read to by his older sister Marie, and he is loving it. She's doing a great job. She's making it interesting and fun. He actually has a long attention span because he's interested in what's going on.
And it's getting dark. And it's getting darker. Soon we will not be able to see each other. What? Soon we will not be able to see anything. We have waited and waited and waited and waited. And for what? For that. Look at it. It's so pretty.
Many autistic kids, especially the ones that fall through the cracks and aren't noticed as autistic until they're older, have really good attention spans and can do very well in class and academics. Remember, an autistic kid might even be the smartest kid in your class. If you do have a child with a learning disability and you see that maybe they have a hard time socializing, and also you see those repetitive movements, it doesn't hurt to get them checked out by a professional to find out for sure if they are autistic or not. Ezra has a hard time sitting still. You can see here my husband Adam's teaching the ABCs to Ezra and Simon. They're inside Ezra's safety bed, and Simon is right with them. He's very interested and he's getting most of the ABCs correct. Ezra is paying attention too. Ezra is nonverbal. He communicates through an iPad, and he has a really hard time in the traditional school setting of sitting at a classroom, feet down, hands down. He has a really hard time with that.
Ezra, can you do C? Yeah, good job, Ezra. C. You do C? That's a B or C. Good job, C. Simon, where's E? Yeah, E. Good job. Okay, S-E-E-D.
He wants to do it again.
D. Okay, where's D?
He wants to do E again.
D. That's a C. Where's D? D. D. Like a dog.
Don't push each other, please.
Simon, can you show us where the D is? Yeah, good job. Okay, Ezra, where's the D? Good job, Ezra.
There's so many comments on our channel from autistic adults who didn't get a diagnosis until later in life. And all of them have the same story. They wish they had known earlier. They wish that a parent or a babysitter or a teacher would have recognized the signs of autism and helped them and given them the support earlier in life. So let's not let these kids slip through the cracks. Let's notice them. My son Simon was diagnosed at 2 years old, and at that time, he did love being social. He didn't really know how to be social, and he had a really hard time communicating. Even though he would talk in full sentences while he was playing, he wouldn't call me mama. So he had words and even sentence structure that he knew, but he didn't know how to use it to actually communicate. This was incredibly difficult, but we got him the diagnosis at 2 years old. You can see that story here about how we got him diagnosed and stuff. I'm so glad we got him diagnosed at that time, because then we were able to get him the therapy and help that he needed, get him into an autism preschool that has helped a ton. Now he's potty trained, he talks a lot, he's super social, he has lots of friends at his school, and he loves going to school. He still has things that are difficult for him, but he is thriving because we know how to help him. If I put him in a regular preschool and the teacher didn't know that he was autistic, honestly, as his mother, I know he would not be thriving. He would be having a really difficult time because the teacher wouldn't know how to help him. They wouldn't know about the diagnosis. They wouldn't know that he has autism. The next sign is sensitive to sensory input. Some kids have a hard time with noises or smells or certain physical sensory input. Ezra has a hard time with sounds. A lot of times he'll cover his ears and make his own sounds. Sometimes we'll be able to put noise canceling headphones on Ezra, and as long as he'll wear them, it does actually help him calm down. But he usually won't wear them for too long. So if you have a child who has a hard time with smells or sensory input, physically they can't handle tags, or if they have a hard time with sounds, that could be a sign of autism. I know an autistic child that is fine with loud noises, but if there's a repetitive noise, like a truck outside the classroom that's backing up, beep, 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 then that's a trigger for him, and he has a really hard time with that. Both Ezra and Simon have a really hard time with haircuts. You can see this picture here. Simon is trying to focus on his iPad. He's having a really hard time with all those little hairs getting cut, but he ended up pulling through when we got the haircut, and look how cute he ended up being. He's got a cute haircut now. It was really difficult to get that haircut, so we're happy it happened. So please be aware that those sensory input sensitivities can be a sign of autism. I'm so glad we were able to get Simon the help he needed at a young age, because now he's thriving because of all the hard work he's put in and the support that he's received. The next sign is a collector of unusual things, like water bottles.
Wire, water bottles.
Or cords. Ezra loves water bottles so much that if he sees a complete stranger with a water bottle, he'll try and take it from them. Yeah, it's started up some unusual conversations, we'll just say that. If you have a child that has to have all the blue crayons or needs all the erasers in the room, then that's a sign of autism. And if you are a teacher, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because you don't get thanked enough, you don't get paid enough, and your efforts are truly helping to make this world a better place for each individual kid who you serve. So thank you so much for choosing to teach. The next sign is, as a teacher or caregiver, really watch how the child interacts with their peers. My autistic boys get along great with their older siblings and us, their parents. But when it comes to their peers, it can be really challenging. When you see a child in your class that just can't make and keep friends, that's a sign that they may need help socializing. They may need some extra support and help just learning how to be social, maybe learning how to share, maybe learning how to talk in a way that people like to be talked to. Maybe they need a little help understanding social cues or body language. Another thing that happens that's related to this is that a lot of autistic kids have a hard time with team sports.
Well, I never did like team sports.
And just imagine why. If you have a hard time understanding social cues or body language, how are you going to be able to read your other teammates and understand what they expect from you and what they want? Are they ready for a pass or are they not? That might be really difficult for an autistic person, especially if they haven't practiced that and especially if their teammates don't know that they're autistic. So if you see your child in your classroom always being alone, always being picked last, the other kids never want them to play team sports with them, you might want to talk to them about what the issue really is. What is the reason? Why are they being picked last? Why are they being shunned by everyone else? Is it because they are autistic? If so, getting that diagnosis can really give them support and help early on. It can really help them later in life. Remember, having issues in socialization is one of the key categories of an autism diagnosis. And the last sign, yes, this last sign that I said was a biggie. Make sure that this never falls through the cracks and that you as a teacher always notice this last sign, regression. That's when you see a child in your classroom or your child at home being able to do something, have the ability to sit down and write their name, and then they regress and they're not able to write their name anymore. Or they're able to say thank you, but then the next day they never say thank you again. That is regression. And that is such an important sign to notice as a teacher, as a caregiver, as a parent. Ezra has regressed. As we've been trying to potty train him, there were times when we really felt like we were close and then he would start regressing again. Or times that we really felt like he could say more things. There was one time when he was 1 year old and he could say num num really well. But now he's a really difficult time saying num num. And he's 7 years old now. So be aware that regression is a big, big sign. Here's 12 signs of autism under 1. And here's our autism playlist.